Angular as well. And I've total experience of 6 years, and I've majorly uh, developed some internal as well as the customer facing tools using the front end development. And uh, so yeah, I think like we can get started. So this session is for someone who is coming from from directly from college, or for someone who wants to switch from back end to front end, or maybe like someone who don't have any experience with the front end. And even if they do have some experience in front end, they want to switch to React, or because React is something which is quite popular these days, and it is something which majority of the web applications use, and even the most of the websites are using uh, React behind the hood. And as we have seen, let me just write full screen. Where's the play? So yeah, so React is a very popular JavaScript library. It was developed by Facebook in 2011, and it is quite popular because of various reasons. The first one is like it is so easy to develop in React, and uh, it is so fast, as well as we can build component which are basically the modular and efficient reusable code. And this allows React to be so popular, as well as so good for the browsers as well in terms of performance. Majority of websites, from the small startups to the large FAANG companies like Amazon, Google, everyone is using React for their internal tools. And you must be seeing websites like Airbnb or even Naukri. These are built on their customer facing tools, are also built on React, and even their internal tools are built on React. So, if we talk about why was React created, so as you can see, like whenever a website is loaded, uh, it loads the HTML file, and after that, it creates a document object model. So this is nothing but a tree of all the elements that are there. There could be div element, there could be a span element, there could be button elements. So a tree is created, and so what it does is, so let's say uh, I want to change anything to particular this particular DOM tree. So for that, the code I will write in vanilla JavaScript is quite cumbersome, and it's not that manageable. It's not that easily manageable, because uh, first I need to query for that particular button. So let's say I want to hide an element whenever we click a button. So as you can see, I need to first find that particular button, and I need to query for that. And after that, I attach a click event listener, and then I'm changing the style of that particular button, particular div element. So after I click on that button, but that particular div will be hidden. And this is something which, for this trivial task, I need to write this entire piece of code. And this is not something uh, people who are who want to develop faster web application want. So this is something which is solved by React. So in React, we don't need to we don't need to write this entire code. We don't need to update or query the entire document object model. What we can do is we can directly create components, and we can call a state, and whenever that particular state is changed, that particular portion of the DOM is updated. So what React does is it creates a copy of that entire DOM, and which is called a virtual DOM, and it will only change that particular portion of the DOM which is interacted by the user, which is which the user wants to change. So I've talked about components. So as you can see, let me go show an example. So component is nothing but like the small modular or the reusable pieces of code that we can write across, and which we can easily which we can easily write, so that it can it can form the entire application. So if I go to this website, this is something which was built by me and my team. So as you can see, there are if I divide this website, there, as you can see, there's the header component, there's a banner, there's a get a job now button, there's a carousel here. If I click here, if I slide down here, there's another banner here, there are more cards. So all of these pieces are components. If if I click on Lucknow card, it will take me to another page, and I can divide this entire website into smaller pieces so that it is easier to build, easier to maintain, and because when this website goes to production, it is very hard to deploy, very hard to maintain it if we write the vanilla JavaScript. So that's where React comes into picture. So I'm pretty sure like most of you have like done something in the front end development before, and if you haven't, so what we can do is we can start with how to set up the development environment for React. Uh, for that, we don't need much. We just need the Node.js and we just need an editor. And after we install the Node.js in the editor, we can directly uh, call this command. So let's say if I start this command, so this is my terminal. So if I run npx create app, and this is the name of my app. So what it will do is it will automatically create a React app for me. I don't need to do much about it. And so that's what makes it so easier to develop applications in React. It is directly I just need to run one command and the entire React application is built. So I've already set up a React application before, because it will take a few minutes, and because what it does, it installs some third-party dependencies as well. So there's a React application I've already uh, started. So for after I run the create React app, I need to install the node modules, and after that I just need to run npm run start. So this is the bare minimum setup which I need to start a React application. And after I did this, let me see if it started. If it's still getting installed. So if I go to the previously built application, you can see this is the application which I built, and this is how a React application looked like initially. So, so I've created a component called component one. So components are nothing but the smaller pieces of code which we use to build up the entire application from bottom down to the top. So as you can see, I have this component one, and it's so fast that as soon as I save it, it is getting rendered on the page. So you can see the first component is there which says I'm component one. If I create another component, let's say if I create a test component, and so components are nothing but just simple pure functions which just returns JSX. So JSX is nothing but the HTML written inside the JavaScript. So if I say this is a test component, if I save it, and the name was component test. Import it here. it again getting rendered as this is a test code. So this is how like we start building components in React, and just let me know like if you guys have any doubts, just post it out in the comment section. So this was about the very easy and the basic component which we can create in React. So component is nothing but a particular piece of code which is getting reused multiple times. So let's say if I want to create a list, so as you've seen in this website, we have multiple cards here which are getting repeated multiple times. So this is something which we called rendering of a list. So if you want to create a UI something similar to this, what we can do is we can directly have created a list component before. So what I did is I created a function. I created a array of lists which contains cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. And here I'm using the JavaScript's map function where I'm iterating it over the item, and item is nothing but the city name. And if I go here, if I call this component, so you see uh, that the list of the cities is already rendered. So I just need to write just one single line and iterate it over the entire list, and it it made me render the entire list. So this is something which is already done here. If I create a card component which is taking the information, city name, and the vacancies, I can create something like this. I can also add my styles to this particular component. So so this was about like rendering a particular list. And if we talk about conditional rendering, so there could be cases when we want to render something for a mobile device, or we want to render something for a desktop device, and we have different UIs on both the devices. Or there could be a case when we want to run a A/B test experiment where a particular set of users will see something different, and and another set of users will see something different. So for that, what we can do is we can do conditional rendering of a particular UI. So for that, what we can do is we can create a component here, and as you can see, what I'm doing currently here is uh, I've created the same list where I have a array of the cities Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. And here I'm showing a UI that sorry, there are no city names if the city length is empty. And otherwise, I'm just rendering the city names as before. So let's say change it. And now initially, as you can see, like all the city names are already getting populated. And what but if I change the the list area as empty, the length will be 0, and now it will show sorry, there are no city names. Let's say for the same, if I don't want to like do this, what I can do is I can put another condition as if the item or the city name is Delhi, I can show a different UI. And if the city name is something else, I can show a different UI. So let's say I'm in the capital city. So this is another example of the conditional rendering. So here what I'm doing is, for the first one it is saying I'm in the capital city, and for the rest it is saying I'm in Mumbai, I'm in Hyderabad or Bangalore. So this is the condition I put. So this is a real world example where there could be cases uh, for the for conditions where we want to render something depending upon the particular set of condition, like there's an AB experiment going on there. We want to show something for the daily users, or we want to show something for people maybe who are working in metro cities. So this is an example of like how this website is built. So this is a very practical example where we are using conditional rendering. So if we go further, so let's talk about events. So events are something whenever a user takes an action, or whenever whenever user clicks a button, or whenever user takes an action, we bind that to the events. So if we go here, and as you can see, uh, this is the list which I had. And if I click on, let's say, on a particular city, what I did is I just created another component where I'm just rendering the name of the city, and whenever a city is clicked, I'm consoling that particular city is clicked. So if I go, the name of the city are rendered. And if I click on Hyderabad, it say Hyderabad city is clicked. If I click on Delhi, it says Delhi city is clicked. So using events, I can do anything on this particular UI. I can show an alert saying that this particular city is clicked. I can show a bottom sheet. I can show drawers. I can call an API, or I can use network request to send some data based upon the events. So event could be the click events, event could be the submit event. There are a lot of like browser events which we can bind here and use them to perform a particular action. So if we move further, yeah. So uh, state is something which is the internal data of a particular component. So you must have seen that like there could be two kinds of UI. One is just a static UI which doesn't have much information, which doesn't have any kind of different data, while there is a where dynamic UI where we could have a form, and we are changing something. So cases where we want to change something, and we want to like encapsulate that particular data inside a state, we can inside a component, we can use state for that matter. So as we have like talked earlier that we want to manipulate DOM, and that's why we use components. So state is something which is used to update the DOM, because whenever there's a state change, the entire DOM, that particular component will re-render, not the entire DOM, that particular component will re-render because when the state is changed. So let me just call a state component which I built earlier. So this is a state component. So what I'm currently doing is uh, I've created a button, here, and it's saying that like the it will count the number of times when the button is clicked. So if I click on this particular button, it will automatically update the number of times I'm clicking on this button. So for that, what I did is I've used something called as hook. A hook is nothing but a function which uses the stateful logic inside a component, because this is a functional component. And earlier, when we had the class component, uh, we weren't allowed to update the state inside a functional component, because functional component used to be uh, stateless. But now we can update the states inside a functional component as well using the stateful logic, using these hooks. So let's create another state here. So let's say I've created the second button, and the second the second value of this particular array, so use state returns an array. First one is the state and second is the updater function. So the updater function here, what it does is it takes the value of the state and then it adds some logic to it and then updates that particular state from its initial value. So if let's say I have the second button state, and if I create a function set second button click, and I'm using another hook, I'm using use state, and I'm initializing this value as one. But I can use string as well for the initialization. And now I've created another button, and whenever this button is clicked, I'm using let's say I'll call another function event handler, and on second button click. And whenever this button is clicked, this function will be invoked. And what it does is it will update the second state by one. And we can also print it here, like how many times that particular button is clicked. This is the state value. And if I save it, as you can see, the first one is the, and now both of these have different states. So if I click this one, only this particular state will be changed. And if I click this one, only this particular state will be changed. So this is how a state works in React. So state is nothing but the local is kind of like a local variable. It holds the data which is only available inside that particular component. So if you go further, there's something called props. So we talked about state, and similarly, props is another form of data which React has, and for props, uh, let's say I have this component. This component called the props component, and what I did is I just accepted the props is nothing but the argument which are like, since this is a function and this is a functional component, so props are nothing but the arguments which is sent to a function. And as you can see, like here I've sent three arguments: name, company, and city. And similarly, I've rendered a UI where I'm saying like my name is the name which is sent by the parent component to the child component, and similarly I have the company name, I have the city name, and if I render this UI, first comment this one. If I render this UI, you can see that it says that my name is Amit. I work with InfoEdge and I live in Delhi. And on click of this particular on click of this particular button, I passed up on button click component from the parent itself. So it is showing some information, and now I can reuse this logic and call it n number of times, and whatever how n number of times I want to render this particular UI. So let's say if I do it again, so you can see like if I change the name to uh, let's say Nitya, and I change the company, to Google, and if I change the city to Hyderabad, so you can see it again got rendered. I don't need to change anything to the component. It's the same component which is getting rendered twice now. It says my name is Nitya, I work with Google and I live in Hyderabad. And it's also rendering a button because I have this button already here. So this was about props. Props is something which doesn't change, while the state is something which gets changed inside the component. Because I have these props and this is something which is being accepted as an argument, and we cannot change these props. While the state we can change. So we talked about the props. So we can also pass the functions to the props as well. So we have seen we're just passing the static data to this particular props, but now I've added a function. So what this function is does is it says it just consoles in the it just consoles that the button was clicked, and I've added some different prop data as well. And while for these two components, while they don't have any function, they don't have any function as an argument, but this one has a function as a prop. So as you can see, if I click on this one, nothing will be consoled because I haven't passed anything here. But if I click on this one, it says the button was clicked. So this is how we can pass functions from the parent to the child, because it is a tree, and everything passes from parents to the child. So yeah, so if we talk about the major difference between the state and the props, it's that the input which is passed to props is nothing but the input passed to a component, while the state is something, the data which is already managed by the component. Props are similar to function arguments, while a state is similar to the local variables of that particular component. And props are something which are immutable, and immutable means they are not changeable. We cannot change a particular prop. The props which we have here, we cannot change them. They could have their initial values. We can set that, okay, like if the value is not sent by the parent component, but we cannot change the name. But while state, it is they are mutable because we can change a particular state. We are changing the states using the use state hook or the set function in the class components. And both of these calls are re-render, and re-render allows us to change the DOM. Let me also show you how to inspect using the React Dev tools. So as you can see, we have three props component here. So what I can do is, let me just uncomment everything. You'll see there are a lot of components. The UI doesn't look that good because we don't have any styles added here. So if I use the React Developer tool, so React Developer tools is a tool provided to us by the React team itself. So what it does is, uh, it will show me the entire props or state which are being passed here. I can use it to inspect and find the particular state at that moment. So if I for that, we just need to download the React Developer tool. It's a Chrome extension which is free of cost. So if I go ahead, it is now added to my inspect elements tab, and if I go to components, you can see these are all the multiple components which are present here. So this was the list component, this was the conditional rendering component, these are the events component, these are the state component, these three are the props component. And if I click here on each component, you can see there are no current props for this particular one because I haven't passed them. Similarly for this, there are no props, there are no props, there are no props. And if I go to the last one, you can see there are four props passed to this component because we have passed four props to this particular component, out of which one is a function. for this particular component, there are three props. Although this component is accepting four props, the fourth one is not being passed by the parent component, so it's not being shown here. That's why if we click here, nothing will happen. But if we click on the last one, it says the button is clicked. Similarly, if we go to the state component, it says there are two states, but for the rest of them, there's no state present. So this is how we can use the React developer tools to to inspect the entire and to find the exact state where the application currently is, and we can use it to debug the application, find bugs, or like find the current state of that particular application. So yeah, I think that this was like pretty much from my side, and this was just a brief introduction, and there's something like just a drop in the ocean of React, and this using this bit of knowledge we can create some some starter application. Like we can use some public APIs to create some list UIs where we are rendering some cars. Like we have seen websites like Netflix or maybe like Amazon Prime where they're just showing different card UIs, and all of them are just a list. The rendering of list we have talked about, and the props and state. This is something which is like very basic to the core. And if you guys want to like learn more about React, the best thing is the official documentation. You can just directly go to react.dev, and it is so beautiful. Like we just need to like it has all the starter packages. Like we can directly dive in into the projects, and create React app allows us to start a React application very quickly. There's other tool called White, which can also be used to start the React applications. React gives us a it prepares us a base for using other more advanced tools like Next.js or Gatsby, which uses server-side rendering and like which are highly performant. I've attached the other links for the tutorials and the useful resources, but I would suggest you guys to read more about the official documentation, which is really good. Uh, yeah, so that's pretty much from my side.
Okay, so we have a bit of questions, but not related to the topic as such. Yeah, there's someone who's asked, will the recording of the session be available? Yes, you can have the recording on the YouTube link where this webinar is being live streamed. I have already mentioned it in the chat box. I'm just um resharing the link in the chat box again. Um, can we get a certificate after the session? No, this is a free to register session. We don't give out any certificates, but yes, of course, it's knowledge at your disposal. So yeah, someone has Japneet says thank you. So I guess maybe people are liking the session. So thank you so much, first of all, Amit, for taking out the time and putting in your efforts in the session. It was quite, I mean, you demonstrated also, and I'm pretty sure that that helped. To all the attendees, I'm just quickly launching a feedback poll. This is going to help us understand that whether you like the session, whether we should have more sessions like this. So, if possible, just you can just let us know that what is your feedback. Thank you to all the attendees who also joined. As I've already told you that this session is going to be available on YouTube, so you can just refer to it. So we have some answers. So I'm just going to end the poll.
So like if you guys have any other doubt like how to get into the front end development or maybe anything related to React, you can like directly reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I'm attaching my like you can just directly search for Amit
Do
Pushpa.
you want me to share your LinkedIn profile here?
Yeah, that would work if
Yeah,
you have it. Like,
just a minute. I'm just going to search it out. Yeah. So I'm sharing Amit's LinkedIn profile link in the chat window. Please, you can just sort of connect to him in case you want to ask something if you have any doubts related to React or any other front end technology, career in front end or whatever. So yeah, okay. So that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Amit.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.